Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Single Subject Credential Art Education Program Orientation Zoom. And this is just an informational Zoom to help you if you have any questions about applying to the program, and just to go through, why art education anyway? Because, I studied painting when I was in school. I got a BFA in painting. And my roommate actually was the one who got the art education diploma. And when I started out, I didn't really understand why I would even want to study art education or what it would offer me. And then come to, where I am to now, many, many years later. And art education has really fueled my practice as an artist. And it's allowed me to be a working artist living in Los Angeles with a studio, with a home that I was able to purchase. I was able to have a child and have medical care and do all these wonderful things that came to me as a result of being able to have full-time employment as an art educator. I also felt or feel very strongly that art education really benefits all of society, and that there's an equity of access issue, that a lot of times wealthy communities have art education and poorer communities don't have it so much. In California, we're really lucky because art education is a requirement for graduation. So there are lots of opportunities and jobs for art educators in California because of those graduation requirements. Uh, but one of the biggest arguments I have for art education, and I often bring this up in faculty meetings, is that, if you look at the salaries for art educators, people who are brand new to the Fullerton Joint Unified High School District, which is our closest high school district, a BA student with a credential, which means a Bachelor's of Art in Studio or a Bachelor's of Art in Education, plus the single subject credential, your first year with the credential, you can expect to make $68,000 plus a year. And then you have benefits on top of that, plus like insurance, which is extremely competitive. If you look at all of the different areas and their diplomas and what's the average person make right out of college, art education actually is highest, which is, I think, something that people don't know. And we in education often don't talk about what the financial benefits are and what the social and emotional benefits are. But I'm here to tell you, as somebody with a master's degree and a painter, that I would not have been able to live in Los Angeles County as an artist without my art teaching job. And the first 17 years that I was in Los Angeles, it really kept me active as an artist, and it kept me active as part of community. One of the other things that's nice to know is if you decide you're going to do a BA in art education, your diploma is going to be $7,485 less than a BFA in an area. So that is the difference in cost between the BA and the BFA. If you're already doing the BFA, don't worry about it. Just keep going where you're going. You've got your FAFSA figured out, you're fine. But if it's something that makes a big difference to you and your family, it's something you should know, which is that the BA is 12 credits less than the BFA. So the BFA is more expensive because it requires more classes. Art education also does require some additional classes, but those happen after you finish your requirements for graduation. You can take them though as electives, and I can show you a way to take them for free, or if you're using your FAFSA to take those classes as an additional elective every semester, so that you don't have to borrow more money to get those education electives. Um, this is something I found very interesting that I found researching myself, because I know that art educators make more money, but I didn't really have any way to prove it. So I decided to do a little bit of research. And I found out that according to the US Department of Labor and Statistics, normally there are 13,000 employed special effects artists and animators in the United States. By contrast, nationally, there are 57,000 high school art teachers in the United States, and 5,000 of them are in California. According to EdSource, with the passage of Prop 28, California has promised to hire 15,000 additional arts educators to offset the state teacher shortage in the next 5 years. What does this mean for you? It means that you're 4 times as likely to get a job in art education. So for me, that's really exciting. And I remember moving to California. That's one of the reasons I wanted to live here, is I had some background teaching, working with high school artists with my MFA program at the museum. And I thought, I bet I can get a job teaching in California and figure out my credential once I get there. And that's what I did. And I found a job within the first year that after 6 months after I moved here, which was really difficult to do. The other thing that's nice about being a teacher is that you qualify for special home loans and reward programs for federal work housing. So the Federal Housing Finance Agency, the Cal Hero program, these are all special home loans that exist only for teachers in California. So there are special programs that you qualify for if you become a public school teacher because it's considered community service and service to the state. And so there are lots of organizations that support actively teachers in the community. You also have work-life balance. It's a very glamorous photo of me taken by my husband when the lighting is great and my hair looks awesome. But this is my studio. And so I do show with a gallery. And I have had long relationships with galleries, and I have a show coming up at the Wignall Museum in the fall of next year. I am able to maintain a productive career as an artist because of the time I spent in art education, building my income, building, buying a home, really setting the foundation for my college teaching. My college teaching, I actually had to take about a 40% paid cut the first year I taught college full time because I was making so much money as a high school teacher, but it was important to me. It's what I wanted to do. I wanted to transition to teaching college. And so when I turned 40, that's what I did. I started transitioning to teaching college so that I could spend more time in the studio and more time working with adult students rather than managing classroom behaviors, which is a lot of what happens in middle school and high school in a single subject credential or like a teaching environment. But I learned so much about how to be a better artist teaching high school. I'm super grateful to the students that I had, that many of whom are now in art education themselves, which is very exciting to see students from my classes go on to be teachers both at the high school and the college level. One of the things that's awesome about teaching high school is that if you do the single subject credential and you're in middle school or high school, you become a part of the community that's there. So this was the last year that I taught high school, was 2016 and 2017. We did community murals, we did portraits, students had exhibitions. This was Rose Meltzer, her senior show. She was a part of Ryman Arts. There were just all of these students that I still have connections with because I was so much a part of that high school teaching drawing and painting community. We helped write a grant and build a building. And some of those relationships have become foundational to how I view teaching and how I view the world. You have, when you're working with kids, you have fun. If you're an extroverted person, you like the social environment, and it's fun to you, and you're excited by working with students, it's a really wonderful profession. If you did not like high school because you felt like a weirdo and a loser, it's your opportunity to create a space for yourself that would have made your high school better. And so for me, the way that I approached it was I thought, I wanted a classroom for all the freaks and geeks that were like me that didn't feel good in any other place in school. And so I created a community in my school that celebrated the things that I cared about. So I created a drawing and painting studio so that students would have individual studio spaces. We didn't have a modeling stage, so we made one out of a table and a chair. It was very simple, but the openness of the community to let me try to teach the things that I had taught in college was really phenomenal. I found the people were really willing to let me and help me experiment and explore pushing my students to the next level. So we did, figure drawing and portraiture at the high school level. A lot of these students went on to study art in college. And then when I started teaching college, I realized that one of the things I missed teaching college was that sense of philanthropy and community. And so I started to create that on campus here at Cal State. This is the Prison Arts Collective. We're now working with Project Rebound, but we did all of these community service projects with community that has been directly influenced by my teaching when I was teaching high school. So I think that as an artist, you can still be a wonderful artist with a wonderful career and a wonderful public-facing career if you learn and do that training as an art educator. One of the things that's also starting to happen a lot is that companies are calling us and asking us if there are students that have they're doubling in both areas. So for example, if a company wants to hire a graphic designer, they're looking sometimes for a graphic designer that has an art education background because that graphic designer is going to be able to conduct a class. So being able to command attention, work with a group, and negotiate the politics of a classroom, because that's what art teachers do. They learn how to lead. And so because we are leaders, we often find that our students get jobs in other areas and so when they add on teaching their diploma, it's just something extra to make them more attractive to an employer. So if you are animation and education, you become very attractive to an employer because it demonstrates that you know how to lead and work on a team, for example. So we have more students like that than ever. If you want to apply to the credential program, that is a program that you take and you start after you graduate with your Bachelor's of Arts or your Bachelor's of Fine Arts. So it doesn't matter what your degree program is, you can still apply to the Single Subject Credential Program to get a teaching certificate to work in public schools. And then you do a year of student teaching, kind of like what you guys experienced when you were in high school. If you had student teachers in high school that acted as like teaching assistants, that's what the Single Subject Credential Program is at Fullerton. We have a 2-semester program. Most schools only have a 1-semester program, but we offer 2 semesters of support, and it's a full year of student teaching. What's great about that is that you can often be hired directly by the school district once you're already on campus volunteering and working as a student teacher. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to become introduced to different programs and different sites that might be looking for teachers. And every year there's somebody who gets a job because their teacher goes out on maternity leave, or somebody decides to change states and there's an emergency need for a new teacher. And if the student teacher is doing well, they often will hire the student teacher who's standing in the classroom. The graphic design teacher at my high school was hired that way. The teacher he was working with, that he was student teaching with, died, and he actually was hired to replace her. So it does happen, and it most often is like a maternity leave kind of situation, but it does happen. If you want to apply to the credential program, they have an education overview session, which is about 90 minutes long. The application deadlines, it should say 2025, 2026. Sorry, I didn't change the years here. But this year, we actually have another application deadline, which is March. So we have a February 15th deadline and a March 15th deadline this year. So that's something that's a little bit different. That's to give you a little bit extra time to apply if you feel like you need extra time. A lot of students can't get into the 441 class, which is the materials and methods class, until second semester. So that helps those students if they want to apply in March. It's a little bit easier if you've taken more months in that class. So if you're able to take the class January, February, and March, you're going to do better than if you haven't taken that class. You're also probably likely to do better if you've had figure drawing. So some students need to take figure drawing second semester before they apply. It does not matter if you apply by the February deadline or the March deadline. Your chances are the same. We have the same process in place, so it doesn't matter whether you're early or late. There's no preferred early admissions time. You do have to prove that you attend that credential overview session in order to meet all the graduation or all the application requirements for Cal State Apply. And so Cal State Apply is like applying to graduate school. You apply through their website and you provide all the information that application asks for, including things like letters of recommendation. Okay, so those are the basics of applying. What you need to have completed, though, in order to apply are these prerequisite courses. And these prerequisite courses are EDSC 310, 320, 330, and 340. They must be taken, within 7 years right before you start the program. And it's really recommended. You can take 304 and 410 before you start the program, or you can take them after you start the program. But you should definitely try to take these classes before you start. You may also, like that. Some people take these, like 1 or 2 of them over the summer right before they start as well. That's also possible, but you want to get as many done as you can. So if you are a junior and you're looking for an extra elective, you can take an extra elective, every semester and get done. You can take these electives, in summer school. You can take them in next semester if you need them, or you can take them after you graduate. You just need to have them done or in process in order to apply. So you have to be either in process or done in order to apply. You also need to take an approved ethnic studies class. And so there's a list of these classes here. And so when you're filling out your TDA, if you have this list, you can look through and see which classes count. And so you look in each category D, some classes count, and unfortunately not all classes count. So it's really important when you're filling out your TDA, you look at this list and see if there are approved courses that meet the requirements. If you are a transfer student, so you're applying from outside, there's also a list that you can follow that is for students who are not. So if you've got your, take this, if you got your credential from a different area, you can also, if they're not a Cal State Fullerton, there's also a list of program approved equivalent courses at other institutions. So it gives you all the transfer classes. And some of them are at Chaffey College, Cal Poly Pomona, so Fullerton College, because some of these classes count. And so if you've taken any of the classes, you can check your transcripts to see if they count. But that is often helpful when you're picking out your electives for your TDA to look through the list to see if you've got it or not, so that you can add on that elective in your second semester if you need to. Okay. We do have a new process for applying this year, and it's slightly different than last year. We used to make students present their portfolios live on Zoom with an audience. And instead of doing that this year now, we're asking students to apply. And so these are the updated directions. I'm going to put a direct link to this new set of directions in the chat because this is probably the most important thing that I'm going to review. So in case anybody wants to have a copy of that, it's super important. It has all the information. Okay. The application opens on October 1st, right? And you have two deadlines. Round 1 is February 15th. Round 2 is March 15th. And then we will start the portfolio reviews for round 1 in March and for round 2 in April. So it does give you a little more time if you apply for the later term. It doesn't matter whether you apply early or late. It's not going to count. It's not better to apply early than it is to apply late. The program will begin in the fall of next year. Here are the requirements, or to be eligible, you must hold or be completing a bachelor's of a degree in art by the end of the school year. Your portfolio requires 15 to 20 artworks, 2D and 3D completed within the last 10 years. Work from middle school and high school will not be accepted. You must attend that Single Subject Credential Program overview, and you must apply through Cal State Apply. You must have these prerequisites done and an approved ethnic studies class. So all of that is the same. However, if you are somebody who did not go to school with us, then if you don't have it or you don't have a degree that's an approved major, you do need to pass the CSET art exam to meet the subject matter competency requirement. So if you are somebody that went to school at a different Cal State, or you have a degree that's in a slightly different area, in other words, you don't have a bachelor's of art in teaching, you have a bachelor's of arts in animation, you would then take the CSET exam. If you were coming from outside of Cal State Fullerton, if you're within Cal State Fullerton, you do not have to take that exam. The CSET is only if you're coming from outside of our school. The Art 441 class is the class that we recommend you take before you apply, either first or second semester. It's offered both semesters, and it is required for CSUF teaching art majors. It's not required for anybody else, but we highly recommend it because when you're applying, you're going to be demonstrating not only your skills and competencies in, drawing and painting and sculpture and ceramics and all of the areas that are foundational, but you're also going to have to submit a lesson plan. And so the lesson plan and student work examples are going to be much easier to understand if you've taken 441, which is the class where you design all of those lessons. It is not required, but it's highly recommended for other CSUF art majors. So like, let's say you're an amazing illustrator and you want to go for it and try it. I would highly suggest you take 441 just so you have some practice lesson planning, so it's not completely foreign to you as an idea when you start. Here are the important links. So if you do need to take that CSET exam because you have a degree from another institution, the link for that is here. And if you also want this single subject program admissions, and that's all covered in that info session that they require, all of that is linked here too. And the education program has a whole bunch of orientation rules that they want to take you through, and it's a really long Zoom. Like this one's going to be pretty short by comparison. It takes an hour and a half. They walk you through every single aspect of being in the education program and what's required by the state, and what are the rules and regulations of being in the education program. This is what's called a working study plan, which I think is awesome. So if you're confused about which classes to take and you are in art education major, it gives you the worksheet of what the prerequisite lower division courses are, what the upper division courses are. And then one of the things that's different about art ed, and it's different from the BA in studio, is that we don't tell you you have to take 2 upper division 3D and 2 upper division 2D. We tell you you can take 9 upper division elective units in anything you want. And then we ask that you take 2 of these art ed classes and 1 mandatory art ed class. We do also have lower division requirements, 106A, 205A, or 207A. We do, however, have a class that's called Art 381 that we do sometimes swap for 205A, depending on whether if you can't get into it for some reason. We do have some approved classes that swap for that class. And 381 is primarily one of the classes. We also have a new class that's not currently on the worksheet that will be added next year, and it's called 383, but you can still take it. And then next year, when it shows up on the worksheet, it will count in your TDA. But we have written these classes 380, 381, 382, and 383. So that's the basic list down at the bottom. So this is how many units you need with a C or better. And then these are the single subject prerequisites that you have to take. So it gives you a reminder. So this worksheet's really powerful because you can just print it out when you're picking classes for your TDA. If you're a student at Cal State and you want to know what to take, and it just is a good reminder of what you should be taking. Let's go back. This one. Other requirements. Let's see. Okay. We're going to go over the portfolio review in just a second here, but we're going to talk about how it's changed for next year from last year. And so let me get through that. 21, season exam, Cal State apply. Yes. Okay. If you want to know if your degree program is an approved major, so let's say you have a degree in design, okay? This is the list of all the degrees that count, and the list of degrees that don't count. So it kind of, this says unacceptable degree requires coursework evaluation. Now, where it says art history, fine arts, visual arts, if you add on, if you went to school with us and you have one of these degrees, right? And we will allow you to prove subject matter competency with the portfolio review, and that's sort of how we address that. If you, however, have a degree from another institution, we require the CSET exam, and that proves competency. That's how we do it. Let's see. Sorry. Let's see. Some interesting things to know. The average starting salary for a teacher in California is $60,000 a year. And the top salary range is about $98,000 to $110,000. And this includes healthcare and union protections, which is one of the greatest things about being a teacher, is that we still have good health insurance and we still have good union protections. What has changed this year is that instead of making you present your slides live, we're going to let you record yourself doing a Zoom presentation just like this, where you go through your slideshow and you record yourself talking about the artwork. You're going to be 15 minutes max, is the max we want to see. And you want to look at 10 to 20 artworks that demonstrate a range of foundational art skills, including figure drawing, 2D and 3D design, and personal artwork. Ceramics we highly recommend as well, because a lot of schools will hire one teacher to teach everything. They'll teach drawing and painting and ceramics and graphic design, for example. And so ceramics is a class that we do ask that you take in foundations in order to be qualified for or just to demonstrate that in your presentation. We ask that you put one lesson plan with related student or example artwork from the lesson plan that shows that you've had some practice teaching, or at least you kind of understand how to structure an art lesson plan. If that's something that's really confusing to you, we recommend that you take Art 441 to learn how to do that. Make sure that you only include recent artwork, that you don't include artwork that was been clearly made a long time ago or from middle school or high school. We want to see what your current level of skill is and whether or not you could demonstrate something like portraiture or figure drawing or design concepts, or how to use Procreate, or all of the different tools that teachers need to be proficient in order to be successful in a secondary school classroom. You do have to attend then after you submit your portfolio. This is after you've submitted through Cal State Apply. We have an info session. Well, it's actually an interview. So we're going to ask all the candidates the same set of interview questions, and then we're going to be scoring both your Zoom presentation and the Zoom interview on a rubric in order to decide whether or not you're admitted into the program. We did have 18 students admitted this year. 2 of them were conditionally admitted, meaning that they had to take a class over the summer in order to get their level high enough in order to start in the fall. And that typically we only conditionally admit students if they need figure drawing and they don't have enough in their portfolio, or if they have not had any lesson planning at all experience and they can't demonstrate a basic understanding of lesson planning. So we'll require that you take a class over the summer to learn how to lesson plan. The class over the summer to learn how to lesson plan is a free online asynchronous class that we offer just because we want people to practice if they haven't practiced. We do tend to let students in if they're really talented artists and they need a little bit of support to learn how to lesson plan. We tend to let them in and then give them the support over the summer. We want people to have a certain base level of skill, though, in order to teach middle school or high school. If your goal is elementary school, there isn't a single subject credential in elementary school specifically, but we do have 2 teachers that we have in the area that do take on student teachers that are elementary school teachers. So if your focus is elementary school, you would want to say that when you're doing your presentation on Zoom so that we would adjust our expectations of your skill level with things like portraiture, because the skill level can be lower if you're planning to teach elementary school. Everyone receives the same set of interview questions. Questions will not be provided in advance. In the same way, we're not providing portfolios in advance because we really want to see where you are and how you respond to questions so that to get a sense of who you are as a candidate and what your values are as a candidate. Within this worksheet is just a simple a set of the slide video directions and instructions. What I recommend you do is you can either use a slideshow narration tool like Google Slides Present Notes or PowerPoint Present Notes where you record yourself presenting on each slide. But even if you do that, we recommend you video the whole thing and upload it on Zoom. So you use your Zoom screen to share presenting the session, and then you upload it to YouTube and create a distinct YouTube link that you then share with us. What we're looking for is that you have professional presentation skills, so you want to practice. And one of the things that's nice about recording is you can practice until you get it right. And that you understand your own creative. We want to understand what your own creative and art teaching practice is like. So what's important to you as an artist, and what are the things that you think students should know? That you can talk about the materials that you've used, the concepts that you would teach in the classroom, and what your learning goals are, what's important to you as a teacher. This is how to record a slideshow on Zoom. Just like I am recording this today, there's a little button, you press record, and then at the end you upload, the video gets uploaded to the cloud, and then you take that uploaded cloud video and you transfer it to YouTube. It's very easy. I will be doing it for this and posting it to the school's website so that this video survives, so people can watch it if they need and have questions about the process. And then, it's pretty simple. We have step-by-steps here in this document that kind of take you through how to post to YouTube, how to record a slideshow on Zoom. And that is the new sort of thing. What we noticed last year is that people got very nervous when they were presenting live. And so we thought it would be a little easier if we could let people record. And then for us as reviewers, we can spend more time watching your videos and paying attention and making notes to ourselves so that we can, instead of trying to do everybody in one day and rushing, we're going to spend a little more time looking at your portfolios on Zoom as a group. So we usually get a panel of 5 to 10 people together to review portfolios, and we will have the group of people there to ask you questions on the live day. And so we will have 2 different days, one in March and then one in April. So if you can't make the date in March, you can make the date in April to do those interviews. So that would be the only advantage to applying early, would be in case you have a scheduling conflict with the Zoom interview day, you could wait and do it a little bit later if you wanted to with the second cohort. It doesn't advantage you to apply early, so it's up to you. Whenever you feel you're ready, we added the second date to see if it would encourage more students to apply. And some of the small changes we made last year made a big difference in the number of applications this year. And so we have more candidates this year because we followed some suggestions that students made, and they really made a huge impact on the cohort. So I'm always trying to figure out a way to make it easier for you and for us as faculty to look at the portfolios, because we want to spend a lot of time talking to students when it's time to talk to you one-on-one. And getting the slideshow out of the way, which is the part that makes most people nervous, we think is going to help. So I just want to point out, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. Guadalupe, you went to Ryman. I love Ryman. My daughter went to Ryman. I'm good friends with Rebecca Tuniman and I started teaching in Los Angeles, I think 2 years after Ryman started. And I love that program. I think it's amazing. Is there something like this for teaching tech, computers, programming, cybersecurity, robotics, and makerspace? Eugenia, there's a program called the CTC credential and you can Google it and find it out. We don't have it here, but it's a career in technical education credential. And you can go onto the state of California's website if you just look up CTC credential, and it's made for people in industry. So like, let's say you've worked for a professional animation studio and you have design production experience, you could apply for the credential and teach after school in an after school arts program for an hourly wage as part of your program. So there's a program actually in Fullerton called Spider Labs, and Spider Labs has they sponsor a special print service program for high school students. And if you go through that program, they actually pay for the CTC credential, but I'll put it down. You can Google this also too, Spider Labs, but it's specifically for graphic designers. Spider Labs. Is EDSC 441 required if you go, let's see, where did I go? If you got your bachelor's of art from a different university. It's not required. So the class is Art 441. It's not required at all, but we recommend that you take it if you have not had any experience doing art education lesson planning. So if it's just new to you and you've never planned lessons, we recommend you take it just so that you get some practice. You certainly can take an art education lesson planning class at another school, and that's fine. It's just to help you pass the presentation. Okay, let's go back. How will we send over the portfolio video? Will we be contacted after we submit the application? Yes. So once you apply to Cal State Apply, you'll get an email saying, thank you for applying. And it will send you the directions once we get all the applications sorted. And so the first thing that happens is Andrea Puerco in the education office goes through and checks all your transcripts to make sure that you're either enrolled in the classes or you've completed all the classes to apply. And they do checks on your diploma. After that's done, then I get a list of the students that are qualified, and then I send out an email and say, okay, this is the link. Please, upload your YouTube video to this link, and this is the date for your interview, and this is the date. These are the sign up times that you can sign up for your interview. So that will all come in one email after you apply. And so you will be finding out for the application program in February, you'll be finding out in March. So if you make the February 15th deadline, you'll probably find out by the second week of March what the application instructions are and what the interview date and time is. If you want to make your recording video now and get it ready to go so that when the application opens and when you find out that you're eligible to apply, as soon as you get that email, you'll be done and ready to go. That's totally up to you. You could do it early to prepare for it, or you can do it late and just get it done. It just depends on what modality works best for you. But we will send you the email after you apply through Cal State Apply, and we go through and look at each and every transcript. That's the hardest part, is making sure that people have all the classes that they need. And so there are a lot of prerequisites, and so we need to check to see that everybody is either in those classes or enrolled in them to take them. Let's see. How will we send over? Yeah, I got that. Let's see. I have a question. I'm an animation major in CSUF and will not switch to an art education major since I'm close to graduating, but I want to become an art teacher in the near future. Do I still have to take the CSET exam? No, you do not. If you went to school with us, you don't need to take the CSET exam. So the only thing that you have to do is turn in your slides, right? And to do the interview. So if you have not taken any art education classes, I would recommend you try to take a class next semester if you're graduating in animation. If you can't get into 441, there's an online class called Art 380 that teaches the basics of lesson planning. And so I would recommend you take either that class, 380, or 441 as soon as you can, just to have some practice. Otherwise, it's very hard to submit a lesson plan and understand what you're talking about. It's very easy to cheat and use ChatGPT, but in order to understand what it means to lesson plan and how to explain an idea, it's super helpful to take at least one art education class so that you understand how to format your ideas so that people understand them. Sometimes if you've used ChatGPT, it just kind of mashes everything together and it sounds like it's selling you the world's greatest cup of coffee. It doesn't really exactly make sense. What we find with lesson plans is that's super true because it uses the most popular lesson plans and it doesn't get into the specifics of what you learned as an animator that you think would be exciting to teach in the classroom. And so we've had lots of animation majors that have come into the program, but they have some curriculum design experience, and that seems to be the difference between whether or not they're accepted. Let's see. Would this not be recommended for somebody with a more digital art focus like graphic design and photography? I don't have experience in ceramics or figure drawing. Okay, so you can say very clearly in your interview, I'm interested in digital art focus. And so then when we're looking at your portfolio, we're going to be looking for more examples in digital art and photography. If you don't have strong drawing skills, you would just use the drawings that you have. We might recommend you take a figure drawing class over the summer if we feel like we can't guarantee you a placement in a digital environment, and you might need to be able to be with a drawing teacher. We might recommend that you take that. We also might recommend you take a ceramics class over the summer. But if you are a passionate teacher and you have a vision about what you want to teach using commercial graphic arts as your focus, lots and lots of high schools have commercial graphic arts programs. Art focused candidate at all. And we would just conditionally admit you and ask you to take like maybe a ceramics 1 class at community college over the summer, or a figure drawing 1 class at college over the summer. But if you're passionate and you have great lesson plan ideas and your personal work is really exciting and interesting, we have admitted many, many students that are from CPEM and also illustration, so we really like those candidates and we tend to work with them if we can. The CPEM students especially are really good at, and this is also true for graphic design, you guys are good at thinking in a multidisciplinary way. So learning and thinking about how to apply these design concepts in real life. And those are exciting teachers that can do that. There's also lots of classes and lots of schools looking for digital art teachers right now. The CSET exam it's a private organization. You have to Google that and find out the CSET exams that you take online. And so it's a class that asks you it basically provides you with the equivalent of a bachelor's of arts degree. So it proves that you're competent as a bachelor's of arts candidate. And so it asks you a variety of questions that prove competency in the different areas. Let's see. Thank you. Will it apply even if my fine arts baccalaureate is from University of Costa Rica? I think as long as you take the CSET exam, and you have a bachelor's of arts, you're fine. You would want to go to the education program info session and ask that question. Because Costa Rica is an international university, they would need to do a transcript evaluation to see. So you would need to talk to somebody in admissions and education to see what the process is. I know that there's a process called it's like a digital papyrus, I think is the name of the process. It's something like that. Or and what they do is they go through and check and analyze the transcripts from foreign universities to provide the admissions program with a certificate that says this is a valid diploma. And it is a process, but you would need to do that with the education program. So when you attend the education overview session, you would want to talk to the person running that session. Her name is Andrea Puerco. And say, hey, I need somebody to evaluate my transcripts because my bachelor's of art is coming from an international university, so that she can tell you what the requirements are for international diplomas. How do I declare the teaching concentration and how early would I be able to do so? That's a great question. So anybody can change their major at any time, and it's very, very easy actually. And I think that it looks different from your end than it looks at my end, but I'm going to show you just the easiest way to do this, which is you just go to Google and you type in CSUF change of major form, and it takes you to a page, like a form, and it takes you through exactly how to require, how to change your plan. So if you follow the directions, it's going to take you to undergraduate, right? And I can put this link in the chat. And all you do is change it from Bachelor's of Arts Studio to Bachelor's of Arts Education, and you're done. That's it. So Bachelor's of Arts Teaching is what it's called. And that's all you have to do. If you need help doing that, filling out this form, you can go up to the Student Success Team office, which is on the second floor of Building D, and they have computers there. They can do it with you. It's very, very easy. If you haven't been to the Student Success Team office, It's an amazing office. And so I would highly recommend you drop in. And the people that you want to talk to are the employees in this group right here. And so all of these, Caroline Harrington is the Assistant Director of Academic Advising. She's wonderful. So any day that you walk in and Daisy is there and or Anna, I think that for sure Anna's there all the time. And so is Caroline all the time. So when you walk in, you're going to get somebody who can just talk to you about anything like changing your major and do it with you. You can make an appointment if you want to with anybody on this team in order to get advice. If you want to talk about, career specialists like internships, you can go talk to Daniel. Anna is who I go to talk to for credit questions. She's awesome. And if you have a really complicated question, you go to Caroline. And so this is the link to this office, but that's a resource on campus for our art majors. That's phenomenal. It's a really wonderful resource. And it's, like I said, very, very easy to just look it up and Google that information. Is there an opportunity to complete your master's at the same time as your credential? So we don't have a specific route to do that, but what you can do is when you're getting your master's degree, you can also take the EDSC classes, I believe, as electives, and then apply so that when you finish your master's, you can go straight into the single subject credential program. So I do think you have to complete your master's first before you can do the credential program. But you can, take your program requirements. Like you could take all the EDSC classes now and they would still apply because they're good for 7 years. So you could finish your master's degree and then add on student teaching in 1 year afterwards, and it'd be very easy to do. So if you, if you have animation as your major, but you finished your program with us, you're fine. So as long as you finish and you have an undergraduate degree with us, it's acceptable, as we accept students with animation that have also completed our program. Let's see. And you won't have to do anything else. If you went to another school, you would have to take the CSET exam. And you've taken art education classes. That's awesome. Adriana, if you want to, why don't you send me this question as an email? And I'm going to put my email in the chat and I will confirm the answer. I know that it's true, but I want to make sure that I confirm the answer for you with the Director of Education. So if you send me an email with that exact question in it, I can forward it to the Director of Education. We have always admitted students that have degrees in animation. And then we just ask that if they went through our program. So if they go through our art department program, they have the same core, which means that you guys have taken all the same foundations classes across all of the art diplomas. So because you have the same core classes, we do accept students from those different areas. Let's see. You mentioned 18 students were accepted last year. I was wondering how many people applied and how competitive would the program be? It just depends on the year and how many qualified applicants we had. I think we had 25 applicants last year and 18 were accepted. And so part of that is, sometimes the 2 people didn't show up to their interview. They just didn't come. And so then you're automatically rejected. Some people, where we had one case of somebody plagiarizing someone else's artwork, which was interesting. So it's a lot of different reasons why. If you for some reason are not accepted, there are area programs that do accept people without the portfolio review, and the main one is Cal State Long Beach. And I used to teach at Cal State Long Beach before I was hired at Cal State Fullerton, and it's a wonderful program. It's a 1-semester program instead of a 2-semester program. So there are some advantages to that. It's a little bit cheaper than our program, and and they do accept everybody. And so they don't have as many layers of gatekeeping that you have to go through. And that's something that I hope at some point we have a single semester option for people that's less expensive. And that's something I'm looking forward to for the future. We have to develop that slowly though, because currently the whole university, their program model is 2 semesters. And so it's just one of the big differences between our school and their school. And it's something that I would say the university themselves is really, we want to be and this is the way that the university sees itself, is having a higher standard. And so we maintain that standard. I have some issues with that, actually. I think that sometimes people with alternative routes are more interesting teachers, and they may not demonstrate that in their portfolio, but they may demonstrate that in their concepts and the way that they work. But we do currently have a team of people that look at portfolios and review them. And that's the kind of conversation we often have, is like, okay, this person's coming with a really interesting life experience and they have interesting things to teach and to talk about. And maybe they don't have the best figure drawings, but they can take a figure drawings class this summer and get better at that. And so we tend to try to work with students. So we do have a section called conditional admit. And in that case, you're not outright accepted, but you're accepted if you take the classes that we recommend over the summer. And we do pick classes that you can take that are either free or at community college, so that you don't have to, it's not expensive. Let's see. May I ask how much you think we will spend in the program? If you have a range to give us an idea. It's the same same amount as 1 year's tuition. So it would be the same as what you're currently paying for tuition. It would just be another year, because it's basically the same as being a full-time student, to my knowledge. And that's not my area because I don't do financial aid, but you can certainly talk to somebody in the financial aid office to confirm that, to make sure. There are also Golden State teacher scholarships you can apply for, which you guys can Google on your own time. We're all waiting to see whether these will last, because they used to be 2 years ago, $20,000, and then they dropped to 10, and then they dropped to 8. And so, but anybody that wants to can apply, and online you can look. The program requirements change every year depending on the state budget. Because the state budget has been imperiled by a lot of the cutoff of federal funding to California, it may impact whether or not that money is still available. But it's one of those things you should definitely, if you apply for, just try. Even if you're not sure if the money is coming or not, go ahead and try, because that scholarship is only available to you if you apply for it. I'm so sorry if you already answered the question, but my connection cut out. Would you not recommend this program for someone who has a focus on digital art? I do not have formal experience in drawing or ceramics. It's fine to have a focus on digital art, and you can totally apply with a focus in digital art. We just might conditionally admit you and tell you to take ceramics over the summer or figure drawing over the summer. If you're a candidate that we're interested in, and we see that you say very clearly, I want to teach digital art when you're presenting, we would maybe conditionally admit you and tell you that we would recommend you to. That might be the only thing that happens, you would be conditionally admitted. But we absolutely have students every year that are digitally focused, and that's totally normal. See, anybody else? See, I already talked for 47 minutes. How did that happen? It's like went even very fast. I'm going to go ahead and put the whole presentation in the chat too, again, just in case you want any of the links that are here and you want to double check things. This is all of the, here we go. This is my presentation, the whole thing. In case you missed it at the beginning. And it has all of the worksheets and everything embedded into the presentation. If you have any questions and you want to email me with specific questions, or set up a TDA Zoom kind of thing where we look at your transcripts, I'm happy to do that. You can add a credential on to pretty much any diploma at Cal State Fullerton, because you're going through our program at Cal State Fullerton. It is a little more complicated if you're coming from another school, but the CSET exam really levels the playing field so that everybody can take that exam if they need to. Samuel, I don't know of any program that offers them both at the same time, mostly because you would you would have to take more classes than are allowed at the same time. So you wouldn't be able to take 8 classes at the same time. And so you have to take, you have to finish your sequence of MFA and then your sequence of single subject credential, one or the other first. Let's see. Are 2 letters of recommendation required? So through Cal State Apply, you send people a link, and then the link, they sort of either submit a letter or they do like this. They answer a bunch of questions, and you click on the questions to answer the questions to rate your candidate. And I believe it does require 2, but it may change every year. So you need to check it to see if it's changed this year. It would be max 2. In terms of taking the EDSC prerequisites at a community college, does that formal agreement qualification matter for course equivalency? If you can take the EDSC classes at community college if you can find one that offers those classes. I believe Orange Coast College does. Not all community colleges do, but you can take them at community college if they're offered there. And yes, you would also, when you go to the credential overview, ask, basically the director of the education program if they have a community college that they would recommend. I've heard that Orange Coast College is good, but I don't know that for a fact. She's the person who handles all of those agreements with community colleges, so she can tell you very specifically which community colleges have those EdSec classes that you can take as program requirements. And they do apply. So every single Cal State has a similar grouping of 4 classes that you have to take. And so you can take them with us and then apply to Sacramento State. You can take them anywhere. And so in fact, we have had candidates do that. They take the program requirements with us and then they go get the credential at Long Beach or something, and that's fine. And if you only want to pay for one semester, then that is the cheaper way to do it. So I feel like it's important to be completely transparent. We are not the cheapest program. We are a 2-semester program, which means we're twice as expensive as a 1-semester program. However, you're more likely to pass if you take our program. We have 100% pass on the teaching performance exams that you take as part of your program. And one of the reasons why is we go slower and we make sure everybody understands every part of that exam that you have to take for credentialing. What type of work do you recommend for portfolio, and when do you need to submit them by? So you submit them after you finish your Cal State Apply. So if you apply by the February deadline, you'll submit them in March, right? And if you apply in the March deadline, you'll submit them in April. And you just need an overview of the 10 to 20 artworks that show competency. And so what we're looking at is, do you have an undergraduate degree where you've covered all the foundations well enough that you could teach them to another person? And so that's what we're looking for. Do you have a competent art education foundation? So have you taken like 2D design, 3D design, still life drawing, figure drawing, all of the basic stuff that you have to take when you're doing your core classes? And are you competent enough in those core classes to teach those classes to other people? And we also want to see if you're an artist. So personal artwork is important. Do you make work for yourself? Because when you're hiring an art teacher, you're hiring somebody who's skillful and knows the formal concepts, but also somebody who's creative and appreciates creative students and appreciates a creative mind. Because a great art teacher's classroom is like a lifeline in a high school or a middle school. A lot of times that is the safest place for a lot of kids that maybe don't fit in anywhere else. We see that it's very, very true with special education students, with neurodivergent students, with students that are, just don't fit in anywhere else. I used to always say this is the class for freaks and geeks, and everybody would laugh, but it was true. Like, it was a safe space for lots of people that didn't fit anywhere else. And we want to encourage people who are creative and who want to create that safe space to go into the profession, because we want artists to be in community and we want artists to have meaningful lives and meaningful income as adults, because it's a wonderful opportunity for an artist to work in community. I feel really strongly that art education doesn't limit your ability to be an artist. If anything, it enhances your ability to be a more successful artist. Anything else? Are there age limitations? No. I would say just that you're older than the students you're teaching. But that doesn't always happen if you're teaching college, for sure. But if you're teaching high school, of course, you'll be older than the students you're teaching. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to stop recording just in case that makes it easier to ask a question. Stop.